Hi everyone. This is a pleasure to be in EclipseCon talking about the Internet of Things. I am Andre Bottaro, and it's been a while that I've been working in the Orange Labs research and development in the smart home domain and the Internet of Things in general. And what is new to me for the past 2 years is to see the emergence of some standards, and especially standard organization at the same level of 3GPP, but to specify APIs at the service level for the Internet of Things. And with this big organization emerge, we have closed some of other organizations like the Home Gateway Initiative. We have closed that to put the focus on this big organization with the aim of having a full end-to-end reference architecture for the whole Internet of Things. So est-ce que vous avez une télécommande, non? Okay. So the Internet of Things, for me and in the Orange Labs, is an ambitious vision with the wide set of applications enabled by the extension of classic networks to things. It could work, but yeah, maybe I will use that. And in the Internet of Things is not uniform and is not so cross-domain today, because we have, thank you very much, we have several sub-ecosystems in the Internet of Things today. We have the smart home, the smart building, the smart city, connected car, logistic, and other domains in the Internet of Things. And today, even in those subdomains, we have an heterogeneity and a plurality of players that is different from one application domain to another. Even if there is a heterogeneity in the sub-ecosystems, we have at least a common point in the Internet of Things on the technical area. We have in every IoT ecosystem we have an Internet of Things infrastructure at the center of the system, with often a cloud platform and usually a gateway, and there are some systems without a gateway, and devices in the field that are connected to this infrastructure. And we have services and applications that are sometimes in silo with their devices, and sometimes crossing domains by controlling various devices with APIs interfaces provided by this IoT infrastructure. In this system, with this system, we see some players having the full end-to-end infrastructure for their niche market or for their system. But in a lot of areas, we see that there are several players that are taking the three different roles. So we, as telecom operators, we have the aim to. Oops, sorry. We have the aim to provide a full IoT infrastructure on some Internet of Things domain, opening interfaces to service providers for their services and applications to control devices and to assist their users, their clients, and offering protocols and APIs to devices for them to connect this whole ecosystem and offer functions to the services. And when we are a device provider, an IoT infrastructure operator, or a service provider in the Internet of Things, we have the question of do I reinvent a full system? Do I use some standards and some other technologies? This is a question in face of the heterogeneity of the technologies and the ecosystems. So why choosing standards in the Internet of Things? For me, when I see a lot of projects, the answer is very natural. At least when we are a platform provider, but it is also the answer for a device provider and an application provider who wants to compete in the game when some GAFAs, Google, Amazon, Facebook, and Apple or others are taking a key role in the game. You want your platform, your interfaces, your application to have a global footprint, and for that, unless your name is Google or another name of the GAFAs, you want to use an emerging standard or a standard that is backed by a large organization. And if you adopt this standard, you will at once gain a larger footprint. So that's key. You want to scale up, and you can do that by leveraging available open source implementation and communities. And there are standards, and I will speak about 1M2M, that are implemented by the community, and we have examples in the Eclipse community of an implementation and a community emerging thanks to the implementation of a standard that is attracting partners. Of course, when you want to put in place such an infrastructure or applications and devices in the Internet of Things, you want to go fast with the technical aspects, and you will gain speed by capitalizing on available specifications that are living and that are covering the main technical aspects, if not all technical aspects. So my introduction was very generic in the Internet of Things. I will try to focus on a case in the smart home on which I work for some years. So in the smart home, the user is in the center of the value chain. The user in the home wants his home open to any device, any service, assisting them in their everyday life, and that's key. He wants that to be assisted not in some applications, but widely in his environment. And you see with the success of virtual assistants that he wants also a unified multimodal customer experience. Then you have service and device providers, as I mentioned earlier, that want to sell services and connected devices on the largest market. That means international. That means with a global footprint. They want to deploy services and devices without any entry barrier. So that means, especially when we are at Eclipse conference, that means with common software skills, with developers that are numerous and that can easily develop the things that have to be done in the infrastructure or in their applications and the devices. And those players want to benefit from infrastructure services offered by a platform provider. The platform provider is here named the smart home operator. It can be a telecom operator, as I'm working in Orange, but it can be also another platform provider, a technology provider, an integrator, and he will here sell the services of his infrastructure. I have put some examples about device management, about enterprise support, and he wants to partner with all the providers, be it device providers or service providers, to provide rich application stores and rich device stores to their users. And then a player that is key also in opening a platform to several partners is the third-party software developer. The developers want to develop applications on standard APIs, or at least well-spread APIs, and a software development kit that gives him access to a large set of libraries. So the main technical challenge that we have in our prototypes, of course, we have also we are tackling some more research topics about security, about semantics, and so on. But here, to make this dream appear and get true, this dream get true, and this picture get true, we want to be visible and deliver interoperable APIs and data models for infrastructure operators, service, and device providers. And for that, we need a standard that is backed by a large international organization and with open source communities. And with that, we think that we could scale up, go fast, and compete with worldwide giants. So now I can give some hints about what is WAN-M2M, and WAN-M2M could play a key role in the standardization of the whole Internet of Things infrastructure for for many IoT domains. This is their objective, and I will give you also some hints of how WAN-M2M helps me and my team in the implementation and of an infrastructure platform with cloud APIs for the smart home. So, in a nutshell, WAN-M2M is especially an international standard backed by the 8 giant regional organizations like ETSI in Europe. This is really similar to the 3GPP. So 3GPP is a partnership project to specify all the standards for the network layer for mobile computing, but today with the 5G specifications, they are addressing the Internet of Things. And WAN-M2M is really the equivalent organization backed by the same regional giant organization like ETSI to standardize this time the service layer of the Internet of Things. There are available specifications, and the developers are often scared by the numerous pages and the number of specifications that are delivered by this organization. And when we dig into that, we see that we can, of course, extract some documents that are relevant to begin the implementation of an infrastructure. We do not have to implement all the specifications at once. And of course, we can also simplify the dialogue with the developers, and that's one objective we have as telecom operators and in Orange. And that's why I'm also here at EclipseCon France, and I will talk about Eclipse WAN-M2M and our contributions. So they are covering all the aspects that are new in the Internet of Things, and especially WAN-M2M has specified a resource data tree that can represent all the users, the actors, the applications, and the devices of your system. And they have specified all the APIs to discover those entities those resources in the resource data tree, discover, describe, get, set data, and subscribe, notify events. So, and of course, with security, device management, and all the other aspects that are needed in the domain. We will see that there are available open source platforms, available commercial platforms. The WAN-M2M is working on the third release of their specifications, and the third release is mainly about abstraction with ontologies coming from the academic area. And with the two first release, they've already made an interworking framework with other organizations or standard alliance. For instance, in the device management domain, in the device management area, they have a bridge with they didn't reinvent specifications. They've used the Broadband Forum one for the home, and the OMA Lightweight M2M one for other ecosystems. You can apply your APIs on HTTP, on CoAP, and QTT. They have a variety of technologies that where the APIs are specified. So, as a glance, here are the 8 regional giant organizations that are well known and that are backing, that have funded WAN-M2M. So, ETSI in Europe, TIA in the United States, and there are 5 other ones in Asia. There are 200 members and more that are active on those specifications. I didn't count all the players that are members of those organizations. If we count that, then we have thousands of members of 1M2M. The 1M2M architecture approach, as I said, is very generic, horizontal. So they have the vision of a world today or in the past that was really in silos. And today we see that some platforms are crossing domains, are becoming horizontal. And the specifications of 1M2M have taken the strong assumption that we could provide an horizontal approach. And progressively, we are making this seamless between domains with the use of ontologies and semantic approach to represent the data in every ecosystem. There is an implementation base with open source implementations, at least four of them, and one of the first one is Eclipse OM2M. I will talk about that. And there are a lot of commercial implementations that we see at every 1M2M Plugfest, so at least one event every year. And we see sometimes those players coming at big conferences like the Consumer Electronics Show and showing that they have a platform that is standard and that is open to many partners. That is the case, for instance, with SK Telecom that has made a booth, that has taken a booth for their 1M2M platform at the Consumer Electronics Show in the past 2 years. Twice. So, yeah, 1M2M has also collaborations. They've made bridges with other organizations, and there are technical bridges that are already specified in the current release. So now we will dig into the technical details of 1M2M, or at least it is still a summary, but we will see what is the set of APIs. So the set of APIs is addressing almost all the aspects of an IoT infrastructure. So in the resource data tree that is representing the world of your system, so the devices, their functions, the users, the players, the applications of your system, you can register any entity in the resource data tree. You can discover them with rich filters and search features. You have security, and you can control all the access that are made by your players towards devices and other entities. You can group your operations. You have data management features. You have subscription notification, and so on. The specifications are really large. There are at least 20 documents covering all the aspects, all the technical aspects. What is something is particular in 1M2M. We have this template to model devices and device functions in the Internet of Things. So they have adopted something that is open source and that was called a Smart Device Template. This is still called a Smart Device Template. We have something that is very generic and that could be seen in other presentations. Levent has made yesterday in SensiNact a presentation of something that is really similar to that, whereas SensiNact has not adopted a standard. Here, this is a standard, and we have something that is made of 3 levels. So we have physical devices that are represented here with properties. We have a device that is made of device functions that are called modules. A module is the implementation of one or several module classes that is an abstract function. And a module class is called in other standards a service, or another concept, the cluster in Zigbee, for instance. A module class is a set of actions, a set of data that are called data point, and a set of events that are related to data. what is very important for developers of applications in the Internet of Things is that some developers will need the device to access directly devices, and they want device-oriented APIs, and they could do that with the hierarchical resource data tree of 1M2M. And 1M2M has also provided another other APIs to directly look for functions without the need to know devices earlier. So we could have function-oriented APIs for the developers, like in Eclipse Smart Home, that want to play directly with functions in the home or in another environment. Skipping the step of discovering devices before functions. Okay. Of course, in the smart device template, you have data types to model the arguments of your actions or the data you have in the repository. And you have, of course, a complex type that you could make with simple data types. There are dozens of devices and modules that are already specified in a specification in the abstraction layer of 1M2M, at least for the home. But I'm convinced that this template is very generic and could be used in other areas. I think other players are will begin that in 1M2M. That's a fact. They have begun with smart device template to model the devices of the home first. So there are several dozens of devices and module functions, the device functions that are already specified. That takes this. For example, here we have the temperature module class example, and we see that there are several data points that are either optional or mandatory. A simple temperature sensor will implement only the module class with only the current temperature data attribute that is mandatory here, whereas an air conditioner may implement all the data points of this module class. So that's a particular example just to illustrate the speech. Here we have an example of, in our prototype, we have several lights, several light bulbs. So here we see that a Leafix bulb has common modules, similar modules to the exact module that are also used by to represent bulb from Philips Hue. And of course, you can have a set of properties and a set of module classes that are different between those representations. We have made several contributions to model devices and modules in 1M2M, and one of our contribution was the model of a coffee machine, and we took the example of several coffee machines that are connected in the market to model devices and propose this model to 1M2M, and they accepted that, and we have made the details. We have aligned the details with them to fulfill the requirements. Okay, so that's just an example. We can dig into the implementation of our prototype. So that is one way to implement that with some Java code made with OSGI technology. In OSGI technology, we have the concept of base drivers. So we have a layer of drivers that are representing every technology, and above that, we are refining every representation to make it appear abstract with the same unified APIs for the developers. And we've taken here the models coming from 1M2M. For instance, the developer can call a binary switch.toggle and call the action of this thing. And above that, we could have applications that are embedded in the box. And here, this is representing the software in the gateway. And we have a 1M2M connector here to implementing the relation between the standard relation binding between the cloud and the box to make it appear in the cloud for cloud applications. So here is the full end-to-end picture of the implementation of our prototype that has been shown at the last ETSI event, the last 1M2M event, sorry. And here we see that above the box we have also a cloud platform that has also a device data and application abstraction layer, and behind that we have the full resource data tree of 1M2M implemented, and that is synchronized with the representation of the same layer that is called device abstraction layer in the box. So we have and thanks to Eclipse OM2M, the implementation that is in Eclipse for 1M2M, we synchronize the representation of the system in the cloud and in the box, the same device abstraction layer as in both nodes of the system. The text here is also talking about security. We filter and we filter the actions or the APIs, the calls of APIs at the cloud level between applications and between the applications and the device abstraction layer to filter the access right, to control the access rights of the applications toward the devices and from the users towards the applications and the devices. And with 1M2M in the cloud, we have the representation in the resource data tree of all the access rights between the entities. I will conclude this talk with what we are doing in the Orange Labs for the community. So in the research area, we are publishing our work, our results about semantics, about access right management, and sometimes how we facilitate the user experience in the smart home area or other Internet of Things domains. We have contributed in the past 2 years to 1M2M standards, especially contributing the models of some devices and device functions. The coffee machine was not the only contribution we made at this level. We also help on the model of a thermostat with other players. I didn't mention that the other players are Samsung, LG, Fujitsu, and there are a lot of device makers that are making the models. And here in Eclipse, we help the OM2M community grow, and we have made technical contributions to fulfill the implementation of OM2M of the 1M2M release 2. In the resource data tree, we have a special format that is called Flex Containers. Flex Container, we have implemented that and made a contribution to OM2M. The smart device template implementation was made by the same team in the Orange Labs, and we have also implemented the drivers between this to represent N-Ocean devices and Philips Hue devices into the standard 1M2M models. So that's the things we have contributed so far. We'll continue to contribute to this community, and the community is slightly growing, and of course I invite you to talk with me to see what we could do together in this area or other components in Eclipse IoT. Thank you very much. Yes.
So, of course, I think the future is to not provide bridges, but to have that functionality out of the box coming from 1.2. So, do you see a movement into this direction already?
This is a good question. So, our vision is that today there are players like Philips, like Netatmo, or others that are so well known that they will not implement a standard. They think that their APIs are the standard. So today, for those players, the key thing that could bring the community is that the community is making the bridges and and implementing the wrappers or the adapters that we need for one M2M system or Eclipse M2M system to control the devices. And of course, there are also other players that are smaller or not as known as Netatmo or Philips today, and they could begin with the standard at once. So there are two types of players, and that's what we are imagining of for the next platform of Orange to be more open to this ecosystem. And I think for a platform provider, it is key to have standard APIs, because then the community could help your bank of connectors or adapters to grow without you making efforts to make this grow yourself and follow every version that Netatmo, Philips, and the others are making frequently on their own APIs. No question? So of course I will stay in the morning at the pause here. So of course you can see me, and we can talk together afterwards. Thank you very much.